मेरा व्यक्तिगत मानना है
जी
कि स्कूल के ड्रेस कोड को सभी धर्म के लोगों ने अपनाना चाहिए और मामला अब कोर्ट में है। कोर्ट ने अभी स्टे दिया है, कोर्ट सुनवाई कर रही है। अदालत का जो फैसला है वो सबने मानना चाहिए।
अमित शाह जी सिर्फ स्कूल और कॉलेजेस के अंदर यूनिफॉर्मिटी चाहते हैं, पूरे देश में क्यों नहीं चाहते? हिजाब पहने या हिजाब ना पहने स्कूल में, इसका फैसला कौन करेगा? क्या इसका फैसला अमित शाह करेंगे?
Hello everyone, you're watching News Epicenter with me, Maria Shakil, in an exclusive interview to Network 18's editor-in-chief Rahul Joshi. Home Minister Amit Shah stressed on the need for a dress code in schools as laid down by the institution itself. He called this his personal opinion, even as the case is being heard in the Karnataka High Court. Amit Shah said it is ultimately about whether the country will function as per the guidelines laid down by the Constitution or mere whims. In the Karnataka High Court today, the state government's attorney reiterated that hijab is not an essential religious practice, saying religious instruction should be kept outside educational institutions. At the core of the dispute is the clash between the state-mandated restriction on religious attire in educational institutions on the grounds of maintaining public order and uniformity and the constitutional rights of individuals to freely exercise their religious beliefs. Before we go to our guests, let's listen in to what Home Minister said on the hijab row.
एक और मुद्दा जो इस चुनाव में कर्नाटका से होते हुए हमारे पास आ गया है वो है हिजाब का मुद्दा। क्या आप मानते हैं कि मुसलमान औरतों लड़कियों के लिए ये हिजाब का मुद्दा जायज़ मुद्दा है? क्या रिलीजियस राइट जो हैं वो इंस्टीट्यूशंस में, मतलब स्कूल्स में, इंस्टीट्यूशंस में इनका एक प्राथमिकता होनी चाहिए, वो ओवरराइड कर सकती हैं?
देखिए, मेरा व्यक्तिगत मानना है
जी
कि स्कूल के ड्रेस कोड को सभी धर्म के लोगों ने अपनाना चाहिए और मामला अब कोर्ट में है। कोर्ट ने अभी स्टे दिया है, कोर्ट सुनवाई कर रही है। अदालत का जो फैसला है वो सबने मानना चाहिए। देश को अल्टीमेटली संविधान के आधार पर चलाना चाहते हैं या विम्स के आधार पर चलाना, वो तय करना पड़ेगा। मेरी व्यक्तिगत मान्यता तब तक ही रहती है जब अदालत फैसला नहीं करती। एक बार अदालत फैसला करती है तो फिर मुझे भी इसको स्वीकार करना चाहिए, सबने इसको स्वीकार। परंतु मैं व्यक्तिगत रूप से मानता हूं कि स्कूल के ड्रेस कोड और स्कूल के यूनिफॉर्म के हिसाब से ही सभी बच्चों ने वहां पढ़ाई लिखाई
से ऊपर रखना चाहिए। मगर एक चीज़ और है कि आपको क्या इसमें कोई साजिश दिखाई देती है? कैंपस फ्रंट ऑफ इंडिया के लोग इस पे सक्रिय हैं, कोई
ढेर सारे लोग सक्रिय हैं, मगर मैं इतना बताता हूं कि इनकी मंशा सफल नहीं होगी। कोर्ट का जजमेंट आने के बाद देश की जनता इसको स्वीकार करेगी।
And joining me now to take this discussion forward, Shazia Ilmi, national spokesperson of the BJP, Aishwarya Mahadev, spokesperson of the Congress, Amina Sherwani is women's right activist. We also have Zeba Shireen, she is the leader of Campus Front. Aishwarya, here is Home Minister making his stand known that they are for uniform. The BJP clearly is now for uniform. What about the Congress party? Does it have views similar to what Rashid Alvi said?
Good evening, Maria. I think first and foremost, the idea of what encompasses a democracy is that the most disenfranchised, the smallest population, and whoever else should have the freedom of consciousness and also have the right to not be part of a larger heteronormative sort of narrative that you're seeing. Let's make no mistake about it. Mr. Amit Shah may talk about this idea of uniformity of education, but quite honestly, a lot of this is othering. The Congress party stands for the fact that freedom of consciousness, freedom of religious practice, of course, is extremely essential. But the BJP using this guise of uniform in institutions as a manner of which to try and even further push away communities is extremely upsetting. Today, we've started with the hijab. Then we're speaking about, let's say, what about the turbans? They will obviously not talk about it because Punjab just finished polls. Then come the arguments of what is essential as a religious practice and not. And you know, when the state decides, and India being the sort of inclusive, sort of secularist nation that we are, these sort of dialogues are extremely disturbing.
As someone who practices Islam and understands Quran, essential religious practice is something just about the 5 tenets of Islam, and wearing a hijab or a headscarf is really not one of those tenets that is being followed or should be followed. What is being practiced here increasingly is something which has moved away from essential religious practice, but I'm leaving it to the wisdom of the court, because there is a constitution bench which is sitting in judgment and hearing about various sides of this argument. Let me bring in Shazia Ilmi. Shazia Ilmi, you heard from the Congress spokesperson. The charge is that it is the BJP which is trying to create a controversy, manufacture this kind of controversy purely for political gains.
So, Maria, I would like to go beyond the semantics, and this business of othering should be stopped immediately. This business of othering the Muslim woman and not treating her and equating her and giving her the same rights as those of other women. Also, othering the woman within Islam who fights against the hijab, and there are many such girls who are part of that fight. And so I would like to ask tell the Congress spokesperson that, do you know what the track record is vis-a-vis the Shabano case, what they did to old Muslim women who were thrown on the streets, vis-a-vis triple talaq, and now the very regressive stand that they've taken, which is totally anti-women, one, anti-constitution and un-Quranic in every way. I totally stand by the fact that we are a secular democracy and the courts will decide. But there are a lot of us who fought to be out there to fight hijab, who have mothers and khalas and puppos wearing burqa all their lives, proper burqas, and who fought it, who come from UP, tough Sunni families. And I think that if CFI or some people want to other the Muslim woman, and that like they've been doing, whether
but Shazia, let me ask the other side and flip this argument. My question then would be, how does wearing of a headscarf along with a uniform offend equality, integrity or public order as the vague notification of Karnataka government talks about? If anything, this order in itself is disturbing law and order.
No, it does not, because they should not wear it in the classrooms, and especially covering their faces. They can wear it till the school, like we all did. Like we all did. It's nothing new. We've all worn uniforms to school. That's why they're called uniforms.
Okay. Zeba, will you respond to this? That everybody wore uniform to schools? All of us did. You have to unmute yourself. Zeba, you'll have to unmute yourself. Then only we'll be able to hear you. Yes.
Very sorry.
Yes, please.
Yeah, first I would like to answer a point that you have mentioned earlier about the essential practices in Islam are the 5 pillars that you have mentioned.
Yes.
But Islam also teaches about being talking truth, standing with the truth, being innocent, being clean, and all other things are also essential. Islam is not confined in those 5 pillars that you have mentioned, because hijab is not a word that is mentioned in the Quran, but also Quran has taught us to cover up her head and all our body. And I'm not going to that. I'm not going to the Islamic virtuals of the point, but rather I would like to answer the question that was raised on the matters of uniformity inside a college. Uniformity will not be ruined by wearing a hijab. How is a hijab ruining a uniformity inside a college? Because the students are demanding to wear a uniform, to wear a hijab, to wear a headscarf. I would like to mention that as a headscarf, which matches the color of the uniform. Not other colors, not anything which does not ruin a uniformity. And uniformity in the uniform code itself is upholded as a unity in diversity, because India, in a country like India, cannot exclude a particular community.
So you are essentially talking about uniform plus a headscarf. It's not covering the entire face either, Shazia. It's not about the niqab or the burqa that we often get confused with. Headscarf is just the headscarf that Zeba here is wearing.
You know, so Zeba makes an argument and it's her way of understanding what hijab might have meant. which is al-khimar, and hijab, which is for jilbab, as essentially used. But I would like to tell Zeba and also the Congress spokesperson who keeps othering the Muslim woman all the time for votes all the time. So I would like to remind them, please, what stops? Like you fear, the Congress lady feared what would happen. Can you imagine what if tomorrow people want to say that it's their right to wear topis and different kinds of topis and pagdis? If our friends were to say in Rajasthan that it's their right to wear pagdis to school, and is their right to wear topis to school, because hijab is obligatory for both men and women. So where will you stop? You tell me.
Aishwarya, it's almost opening the floodgates here. The question is not about practicing religion. Article 14 or multiple such articles, Article 21 of the Constitution, which these girls are saying stands violated. The objective of a notification of this kind is to ensure that wearing of clothing of this nature would protect equality, would ensure that just about everybody doesn't get segregated, that your view and your performance is paramount, not how you appear. Isn't that what education is supposed to be?
Maria, as you very rightly put, this burns down, or the core issue of all of this is education. And the fact is, as much as we do want to talk about equality, as much as we do want to talk about, let's say, an egalitarian society, you do realize society today has diktats and mores and also social ramifications, which mean that if a young girl child of particular, and I'm not only talking about one community, I've seen it also in rural Karnataka where I work, where certain codes, or even when they're covering their head, is part of wearing a dupatta or things like that, and society is not okay, or families are not okay with sending children out like that. And if the core argument is to ensure that people have the access to education, and a state is discriminating to them or discriminating against them on the basis of one piece of clothing that they believe. See, I'm sure Shazia is at a different level of the way that she understands it. But if for these societies that are sending their young girls outside, if they believed inherently that this is a basic requisite for them as a part of their faith, and if the faith is in contradiction with education, let me complete, ma'am. I did not disturb you, and do give me the benefit of the doubt on this. When that is the reality, whether it's close to the faith, whether it's different from the faith, if society of that section believes...
It is not even the choice of these minor girls. It is the decision of the family, and hence the larger role of various institutions comes into play here.
So Shazia, it becomes very unfortunate when a choice is between education and a piece of clothing,
and
you're disenfranchising children because of that.
Yes,
it is unfortunate.
Yes, and this kind of choice is being forced on these girls.
But how are you going to change their mindset? You're basically disenfranchising them from an education. Yes, it takes a larger process. Yes, equality in uniform is extremely important. Whether the parents are doing it, whether it's the school, the fact is still the access to a girl's education is being deprived on this value judgment on what is uniform and what is not. And a court is deciding, while a large part of society that believes in this piece of clothing is not going to agree to it. So you're pushing so many girls away from the opportunity of education, and that is problematic.
This disallowing of schoolgirls from entering institutions when they have exams going on, and their families are now saying that they should wear hijab and stay at home and not enter because it is about removing the headscarf and entering the educational institution. These are the girls who are clearly at the receiving end here, Shazia.
Absolutely. Maria, I totally agree with you. And I have seen a video, I think it was shown on your channel, that there's a young girl who's 13 or 14, and she wants to go. And she takes it off because she's a young girl, and, it's being imposed on her. And her father drags her back and says, no, it's a young father. So there is a certain radicalization that is coming in, that this is the only way to be a good Muslim girl. And I think that messaging is wrong. So I don't think anybody in politics or otherwise should encourage it.
Yes,
because it's not really a choice.
Zeba, the question here is about education. And when the girls are, the minors here, I'm not talking about adults. Perhaps at that stage, you may say that it's a choice that you have taken to wear a hijab. When you are a minor, and those minor girls, it is the male in the household who decide for them, then how is it really a choice?
Yeah, there is a thing behind all the choices that a girl is taken will be driven, will be inflicted, will be insisted by the male member in the family. Not like that. It's not only the minor girls that here is affected. Even the teachers in Karnataka are forced to remove the hijab inside the institution. Why is that? Don't they have the right to practice the religion inside the institution? How is their hijab and their burqa role in the uniform? Is there any uniform for the teachers, especially in Karnataka? I don't know. I have never seen something like that. And also you have talked about, Shazia has talked about the radicalization in the hijab, in the headscarves in Muslim households, in the othering in the Muslim households. As Shazia and Maria have the right to choose, have the freedom to choose not to wear a hijab, let all the other girls, the Udupi government PU college, 6 students have asked,
yes, Zeba, that's a well taken point. But an institution, no, I'm going to respond to that, and I'll ask Shazia to respond as well. Zeba, you made a point that I had a right to choose whether I should wear a hijab or not. I went to a missionary institution for my education, for my schooling, and there the uniform was the rule. I followed the rule. An institution has its... No, I'm saying it repeatedly because you are trying to make this argument which is not convincing to me.
Yeah, I would like to clear that.
Zeba, I have a small argument. If you could allow me to speak, please. Maria, if you would indulge me.
Yes.
You know, minority institutions in India have a right. So if it's Sikh schools or Parsi schools or Christian schools, like the missionary schools Maria and I went to, the choice was very clear. So the choice was education or not. And, you know, believe me, some of my cousins and older sisters beyond a certain point could not carry on because we had to wear skirts to a missionary school, St. Mary's, where I studied. But the fact of the matter was that there was no choice because of our mothers wore. And I realized,
So it's about an institutional norm versus an individual's choice here, Zeba, because when you sign up for an institution, you very well know what are the rules and regulations of that institution, and I can see Amina Sherwani as well. Amina, this has become a heated argument. I would also say that this is a controversy which should not have taken place in the first place because it is about the education of young girls. The priority should be education rather than the clothing or the appearance with which they enter an institution. But then again, the question is about the norms, the rules of an institution, which cannot be overlooked either because that will lead to chaos.
Yes, Maria, and you know, I am not one of those great believers of uniforms. So as a student in school, I would every day try to break my uniform code because when you are young, you want to be rebellious. You want to trouble your teachers. You want to trouble your parents. That is childhood and that is adolescence. And that is why these uniformed girls in these black garbs are scaring the daylights out of me. Where has protest gone? Is it only meant for Shaheen Bagh? Is it only meant to protest the right to wear the hijab? Where is all the other protest? Okay, I agree some girls may protest to wear the hijab, but where has all the protest gone to not wear the hijab? That I would believe would be a choice. If a bunch of girls were protesting the right to not wear the hijabs, if a bunch of Muslim girls were being naughty, they were breaking rules, they were being adolescents as we all were in our time, then I would say it's okay. Some girls are fighting for the right to regress. Some girls are fighting for the right to move forward, but I don't see the girls fighting for the right to move forward. I only see the girls fighting for the right to regress, and therefore I'm convinced it is not a matter of choice.
Okay,
if it was a matter of choice, we'd be seeing many more choices around here, not just this one forced garment, which is not Indian, not mentioned in the Quran, not at all mandatory. In fact, it's kufr to cover up a human being. It's kufr, it's blasphemy to remove a human being from public life. Men and women are equal. There are rules in the Quran which say how men and women are to interact with each other. So if Islam wanted segregation, it would not write those rules of how men and women are to be interacting with each other. A woman is supposed to choose the man she marries. A man is supposed to choose the woman he marries. How are you going to choose your life partner if you don't meet the opposite sex in a spirit of freedom? Children are not supposed to be locked up. From early childhood, they are to be taught how to live with the opposite sex, how to live with people of other faiths.
So the larger point here is, that what is being seen as essential religious practice by a group is in fact un-Quranic.
Is actually kufr. It is banned in
It's
Islam to
un-Quranic.
treat women
Okay,
like this.
Zeba. And then
Yeah,
I'll
I'm
start
not
wrapping
here
the debate.
I'm
And
not
if you
here
go,
to
and I want
get
to
a
tell
class on
Zeba,
Islamic
if you
studies
go,
whether Quran
Yes.
teaches this or not. I'm not here to get a class on Islamic studies. This is not a Quranic class. And I would like to answer Amina Sharwani that Islam does not only teaches as you interpret that Islam does not ask women to cover up or not. It is the essentiality and the other things in Islam shall be interpreted and shall be
anything. I'm
confirmed by
only
the
talking about
scholars,
literally what
not
the
by you.
Quran says. The Quran literally describes how men and women are to meet.
I
Only hijab
understand.
we are told to have over our eyes is that of shame and decency. We are not even supposed to lower our eyes. We are supposed to आंखों में आंखें डाल के मर्दों और औरतों को एक दूसरे से मिलना है, एक दूसरे के साथ मिलजुल के काम करना है, देश का निर्माण करना है, अपने धर्म को आगे ले जाना है. ये सारे काम मुसलमान को करने. Ours is a social religion. We are not supposed to hide anywhere. Nothing to be ashamed. Our bodies are beautiful, created by God. Our faces are beautiful, each one of us. We don't have to put on makeup. We don't have to disguise ourselves. As nature has made us, each one of us is gorgeous. That's what Allah says. And there's nothing to hide.
So then in that case,
exhibit.
Zeba, a quick response from you, please, now.
Don't try to infantilize me and my Muslim women. And all the other girls are chosen to wear, to
What do you
cover
mean,
up
my
themselves.
Muslim
And they
women?
are
Do you own Muslim women? What do you mean, my Muslim women? Do you own Muslim women? I mean, are you their owner?
While I'm talking, let me complete what I have to say. You have
even Allah does not own us. Even Allah has not said we belong to Him. Even Allah has created us and given us free will and let us be.
Don't interfere while I'm talking.
Yes. You know, Zeba,
No, but
what
one
is
has
being
to
seen?
interfere because only
See,
your-
here is the
only
quote.
women like you
Here is what the court has said. One moment.
आप लोग ने इस्लाम को बदनाम करके खत्म कर दिया. आपने इस्लाम का नाम मिट्टी में मिला दिया. इतना खूबसूरत धर्म जो आजादी देता है, जो औरतों को एजेंसी देता है, जो गोरे काले नीले पीले के बीच में डिफरेंशिएट नहीं करता है, अगेंस्ट एनी जेंडर डिस्क्रिमिनेशन, कास्ट डिस्क्रिमिनेशन, रेस डिस्क्रिमिनेशन. An amazing religion, and today I hear it being abused everywhere because of the idiotic behavior of us Muslims. How much more injustice can we Muslims do to Islam and to the word of Allah? I don't know.
Okay, I have just 2 minutes and I'll start taking the closing comments from all. Zeba, 30 seconds to you.
Yeah, I would like to answer to the question that we have a clear evidence that 6 students from the Udupi College have demanded to wear the hijab, and there are 70 other Muslim girls studying in the same college. They don't want to wear a hijab. It is their choice, it is their freedom, and nobody is forcing them. No one can force anyone to wear a particular garment inside or outside the college. In this country, which in India is a unity in diversity, in a country like India, nobody can force someone else to wear or not wear a hijab, and I'm not here to debate on or to get a class on Islamic or hijabic rules, Quranic rules. And I know very well that we are demanding a constitutional right which to wear
it's
a
not
hijab.
a constitutional right. The constitutional right would have been had it been an institution that you did not know had such a rule. An institution has a rule, and institution's rules have to be followed. It cannot be at the whims and fancies of individuals. 20 seconds to you, Aishwarya, and then the final words to Shazia Ilmi. Quickly, Aishwarya.
You know, Maria, I think I'm at a distinct disadvantage that I do not obviously have enough knowledge in the theology of Islam, and as all of you there who are of the practicing faith do. But the singular fact I want to point out is that if societal mores are in such a manner that they would disadvantage a girl from getting an education if she chooses not to wear a hijab because families would keep them out, yes, it is regressive, but it is also a practice that we should look at changing. But to suddenly throw this in the face and disadvantage so many young girls from having an education is what is extremely problematic.
Yes.
What is essential practice or not is something that is secondary.
that is
but to take away the access of education is what we're talking about,
then in
and
that
schools
case,
are places of learning.
Yes,
and
absolutely. That access to education is primary here, and that is the bigger concern. And till the time the court has said clearly, go back to your education, that access to education is not being denied only because you're wearing hijab. What is being said is, follow the norms, go back to education. Yes,
but if families
Shazia,
don't allow these children to pursue an education, that is unfortunate.
My plea to all those people who are Islamists and think hijab is a part of that, I would like to tell them, while you read Surah Noor so seriously, remember hijab is for everybody. Soon you'll be asking the Salman Khans of the world that what kind of a Muslim are you that you take off your shirt? So it's for both the sexes. And the second point, the most important point for all of you is read about Taaleem and read about what
Taaleem,
Quran says about
absolutely.
education.
Taaleem should be priority.
Taaleem first.
And yes, Taaleem,
first.
absolutely. Shazia, Aishwarya, Amina and Zeba, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your thoughts. The stage is set for the biggest and the most exclusive interview of this election season. Here's a sneak peek into that exclusive with Home Minister Amit Shah.